What if someone who passed away was still trying to protect you from wherever they are? My name is Rebecca Miller. I'm 28 years old. I'm a graphic designer and I live in Austin, Texas. I've always been someone who believes in what she sees, who trusts logic, who solves problems with data and planning. My world has always been made of colors, shapes, pixels on screens, concrete, measurable things. I never believed in signs, in spiritual protection, in those who come back to warn us about something, until something happened to me that completely changed everything I believed in. After hearing this, you'll never look at butterflies the same way again, because what I'm about to tell you defies any explanation that science knows. This story will completely change your vision of a mother's love, and how that love can manifest in ways our minds could never imagine possible. What I lived through in the last 8 months proved to me that there are connections, stronger than physical life itself, that a mother, a real mother, never stops protecting her daughter, no matter what dimension she's in. If you've ever lost someone who loved you unconditionally, if you've ever felt like you were being guided by an invisible force, if you've ever experienced impossible coincidences that seemed like direct messages, then you'll understand every word I'm about to say, because my mother, Linda, found a way to save me that breaks all the laws of physics. And it all started with a purple butterfly that appeared exactly when I needed it most, carrying a message that would change my life forever. I was born and raised here in Austin, in a small but very connected family. My dad, Robert, was always a truck driver, spending weeks on the road transporting cargo across Texas and the Southwest. My mother, Linda, was a nurse at Dell Seton Medical Center, and there was just me, an only child, the center of their universe. From a young age, my mom and I were inseparable. She taught me to mix colors on Sunday afternoons, took me to observe butterflies at Zilker Park, invented stories where I was always the heroine. When my dad was traveling, which was frequent, we created our own world. Living room picnics, movies until dawn, contests to see who painted their nails the prettiest. My mother was one of those people who transforms any environment. A smile that lit up entire city blocks, laughter that made everyone stop to listen, always with some word of comfort for whoever needed it. At the hospital, she was known as the angel of the cardiac wing. At home, she was my safe harbor for absolutely everything. Our house had a small backyard, but it seemed like a botanical garden in her hands. Roses of every color, jasmine that perfumed the entire night, hibiscus that opened with the morning sun, and especially a special flower bed of plants that attracted butterflies. She spent hours there, talking to each plant as if they were close friends. "Becca," she always told me while watering the flowers, "butterflies are living proof that life always finds a way to transform into something more beautiful. They're born crawling, lock themselves in a dark prison, and then they fly. It's pure magic." I found it poetic, but I was a teenager. I had other concerns: school, friends, first boyfriends, college applications. My mother's garden was just my mother's garden. I graduated with a degree in graphic design from UT Austin with excellent grades and soon got a job at one of the best agencies in Austin. I moved out at 24, rented a modern apartment in downtown. My mother cried on moving day, but was beaming with pride. "My little butterfly has grown up and now she's going to fly with her own wings," she said, hugging me tight. My routine was intense. Gym at 6 in the morning, work from 8 to 6, freelance projects at night to increase income. Weekends split between personal projects and quick visits to my parents. Always running, always planning the next career move. My mother called me every day. "Honey, are you eating right? Are you sleeping well? Aren't you working too much?" Sometimes I got a little impatient, answered on autopilot, hung up to get back to the computer. Today, I deeply regret those rushes. She always insisted that mother and daughter have a connection that goes beyond the physical. "I feel when you're not well, even from a distance," she said. "It's like an invisible antenna that connects our hearts." I thought it was exaggeration from an overprotective mother, but she really always got it right. She called precisely on days when I was stressed, showed up with my favorite brownies when I was sad because of some boyfriend. How do you always know when I need you? I asked, intrigued. A mother's love doesn't need explanation, my daughter. It's bigger than time and space. She said this with a conviction that impressed me, as if she knew something I hadn't yet understood. About spirituality, our views were opposite. I believed in God in a formal way, but nothing about miracles, angels, post-death communication. For me, death was a switch. On, off, over. What remained were memories and longing. My mother was the opposite. She believed in energy, in angelic protection, in constant signs from the universe. When she saw a colorful butterfly, she stopped. Everything she was doing. Look, Becca, a little message from heaven for us. I smiled politely but thought, Mom, it's just an insect doing its job. What irony. Today, I know she was right all along. During the years I lived alone, our relationship deepened. She respected my independence, but never stopped being my mother. On Sundays, when I went for lunch there, she prepared my favorite dishes, showed me the garden's novelties, told me hospital gossip. They were sacred moments that I didn't always value as I should have. Our last Mother's Day was special in a way I only understand now. I took her to a spa. We had massages together, had lunch at a fancy restaurant overlooking Lake Austin. She was more radiant than ever, thanking me as if it were the most extraordinary gift in the universe. Becca, you are the greatest blessing God gave me, she said, holding my hands across the table. Promise me something, anything. If one day I'm no longer here, physically, promise you'll continue believing in love, that you'll allow yourself to be happy? I frowned. Mom, what kind of strange conversation is this? It's not strange. It's important. Her eyes shone differently. And promise you'll pay attention to the signs? Life tries to talk to us all the time, we just don't listen. What signs? She pointed to a blue butterfly that had landed on the restaurant's deck. Butterflies, music, coincidences, people who appear at the right time. The universe is generous with those who know how to see. I forced a smile. Okay, Mom, I promise I'll pay attention. At the time, I thought it was sentimental mother philosophy. Today, I understand that she, somehow, already knew that would be our last Mother's Day together. Last July, my mother started complaining about strange back pains. Must be from posture at work, she said, trying to minimize it. Too much time standing taking care of patients. We insisted she see a doctor, but you know mothers, always taking care of others before themselves. When she finally went for tests in September, the result came like a tsunami. Pancreatic cancer, already in advanced stage. The doctor was direct. With aggressive treatment, maybe 6 months. Without treatment, maybe 2. My world collapsed instantly. How could my mother, this force of nature, this woman who radiated life, be sick? How could something so cruel happen precisely to someone who spent her life caring for others? I dropped everything to be by her side. I talked to my boss, canceled projects, sublet the apartment temporarily. My only priority became taking care of her with the same dedication she always had for me. During the following 4 months, we lived each day as if it were a gift. And it really was. My mother faced the disease with courage that left me speechless. She never complained, never asked, why me? On the contrary, she comforted us, said she was at peace, that she had lived intensely every moment. On afternoons when she felt better, she went to the garden. She sat in a wicker chair right in the middle of the flowers, watching the butterflies dancing among the petals. She stayed there for hours, in contemplative silence, as if she were absorbing some special energy from nature. Mom, what are you observing so much there? I asked, sitting beside her. The butterflies, my daughter. They teach me about transformation, about how life continues even when everything seems to end. She held my hand. Look how free they are, how they fly without fear. That's how I want you to live when I make my transformation. Mom, don't talk like that. Let me talk, Becca. It's important. She turned to me with those still bright eyes. When I make the passage, I want you to know that I'll continue taking care of you, just in a different way. Different how? A mother's love has no limits, no boundaries, not even death can interrupt that. She pointed to an orange butterfly dancing among the hibiscus. If one day you feel alone, lost, needing guidance, Pay attention to nature, to butterflies especially. Why butterflies? Because they've always been our special messengers. Ever since you were little, they appeared in our important moments. Remember your graduation day? That golden butterfly that landed on your shoulder during the photo? I remembered vaguely. I thought it was coincidence. There's no coincidence when it comes to love, my daughter. There's synchronicity. There's care. She smiled with that infinite sweetness. If one day you see a butterfly in a difficult moment, it might be me sending a very tight hug. I forced a smile through tears. Okay, Mom, I'll remember. But deep down, I hoped they were just ramblings caused by medication. And when I thought I had seen everything, came the impossible. In early December, my mother had a sudden worsening. She was hospitalized on a Thursday afternoon. My dad and I set up a rotation schedule to stay with her 24 hours, but we both knew that. It was a matter of time. In the early morning of Saturday, she woke up more lucid than she had been in weeks. It seemed like a special energy had taken over her. She called me very close to the bed. "Becca, my little butterfly of the heart," she whispered, but with a surprisingly firm voice. "It's time for Mommy to make her great transformation." "No, Mom, you're going to get better. I'm going to be fine. Yes, I'm just going to another place, another state of existence." She touched my face with those hands that had comforted me my entire life. "But I want to tell you something important before leaving." "What, Mom?" "In the coming months, you're going to go through difficult situations, moments when you'll need to make important decisions, and I'll be there, guiding you." "How, if you won't be here?" "Through butterflies." She smiled with a certainty that gave me chills. "They'll appear at the exact moments you need me, and they won't be common appearances, daughter. They'll be direct messages, impossible to ignore." "Mom, promise you'll pay attention? That you'll trust the signs?" I was crying so much I could barely speak. "I promise. And promise you'll be happy? That you'll build a beautiful family, full of love. I promise." She closed her eyes for a moment, as if she were connecting with something beyond our reality. When she opened them, there was a different light there. "The butterflies will show you the way, my daughter, for everything. Trust Mommy." 3 hours later, she made the passage, serene, at peace, as if she were just napping for a longer dream. The funeral was on a sunny December morning. The church packed with people she had touched during her 52 years of life. Hospital colleagues, decades-old neighbors, patients she had cared for, entire families who considered her family. During the entire procession, something extraordinary happened. Hundreds of butterflies began to appear. I'm not exaggerating. There were really hundreds, of every imaginable color, flying in formations that seemed choreographed, accompanying the car carrying the coffin. People commented, impressed, "I've never seen so many butterflies together like this. It's like they came to say goodbye to her." What a beautiful and strange thing at the same time. The priest, during the Mass, commented, "It's as if all of nature were paying its respects to a special soul." I tried to rationalize. It was summer, butterfly season, coincidence, nothing more than that. But deep in my heart, a part of me already knew I was wrong. 2 weeks after the funeral, I returned to my apartment. I needed to resume life, responsibilities, reality. But returning to routine was like trying to fit a broken piece into a puzzle. Nothing made sense without her. I woke up, worked on autopilot, came home, ate anything, and tried to sleep. Every day the same, every day empty. The longing was a physical pain in my chest that never went away. It was on a Tuesday, December 17th, a date I'll never forget, that my life changed forever. I was at work, trying to concentrate on an advertising campaign, when I received a call that froze my blood. "Rebecca, this is from LabCorp. You had some preventive tests done last week, correct?" "Yes, I did. You need to come here, urgently. There was a serious alteration that requires immediate investigation." My heart raced. "What kind of alteration?" "I prefer not to discuss over the phone. Can you come today?" I hung up trembling. My mother had passed from cancer just 15 days ago, and now I had serious alterations. Was it hereditary? Was I also sick? Was I also going to die young? I took an Uber to the lab, 1,000 apocalyptic scenarios going through my head. During the entire journey, I could only Think, I can't die now. I still have so much to live. My mother can't have fought so hard just to lose me too. Traffic was stuck on I-35. The driver grumbled about the jam. I looked out the window, lost in dark thoughts, when something extraordinary happened. A purple butterfly, of such an intense purple it seemed to have come out of a fantasy movie, landed on the car window, on the outside, but exactly in front of me. And it wasn't a common butterfly. It was large, with golden designs on its wings that seemed to form symbols. "Wow, what a beautiful butterfly," commented the driver. "I've never seen one that color around here." I looked at it and something inexplicable happened. A voice, clear, unmistakable, my mother's voice, echoed inside my head. "Stay calm, my daughter. It's nothing serious. Trust me." I froze. I looked around. The driver continued driving normally. The voice had been only in my mind, but as real as any physical conversation. The butterfly remained stuck to the window for 15 minutes. It accompanied the car block after block, even with the wind, even with the movement, as if it were escorting me, protecting me. We arrived at the lab. The butterfly made 3 circles around the car and disappeared into the blue sky. I entered the lab with inexplicable calm. That desperate anguish had completely disappeared. I knew, without knowing how, that everything was fine. The doctor called me into the room, opened my file with a worried face. "Rebecca, do you have a family history of cancer?" "My mother just passed from pancreatic cancer." "I understand. Look, the alteration we detected isn't cancer, but it's a very specific genetic predisposition." She showed the papers. "The good thing is we discovered it very early. With 6 monthly monitoring and some lifestyle adjustments, you can live normally for decades." I sighed with relief. "So it's nothing urgent?" "Nothing urgent. Actually, you were lucky to have done the tests precisely now. Most people only discover when they've already developed something more serious." I left the lab with my heart overflowing with gratitude. It wasn't coincidence that I had done preventive tests 2 weeks after my mother's passing. It was protection. It was her taking care of me. And the purple butterfly, her voice, everything made sense. That night I called my dad and told him about the tests and about the butterfly. Silence on the other end of the line. "Dad? Becca, I never told you, but your mother had an obsession with purple butterflies." "What do you mean?" "When she was a child, your grandmother told her that whenever someone in the family was in danger, a purple butterfly would appear as protection. Your mother believed this religiously." I felt chills running through my entire body. "And she said that when she passed, she would communicate with us through purple butterflies especially." "Dad, why didn't you ever tell me this?" "Because your mother asked me not to tell. She wanted you to discover naturally, without influence. She said it had to be genuine." That early morning, I couldn't sleep a single minute. I kept thinking about the butterfly, the voice, the protection I felt. Was it real? Had my mother really found a way to communicate with me? What happened next goes against everything reason can understand. The following Thursday, something happened that changed my perspective on everything. I was leaving work when I received a message from an unknown number. "Don't take Highway 183 today. Very dangerous." I found it strange. Who was it? How did they have my number? Why would they warn me about a specific highway? I got in my car and headed home. My normal route went precisely on Highway 183, a path I had taken for 4 years, every day. But when I reached the highway entrance, something extraordinary made me stop the car. There was a formation of yellow, butterflies flying in a circle at the entrance to the highway. It wasn't 3 or 4. There were at least 20 butterflies, flying in impossible synchrony, forming a visual barrier that covered half the entrance. Drivers stopped to observe. People on the sidewalk took photos. It was a spectacle that defied any natural explanation. And in the middle of my chest, a very strong sensation. Don't enter this highway. I took an alternative route, much longer, but one that left me at peace. The next day, the news reported, very serious accident on Highway 183, exactly at the time I would have passed there. A truck with brake failure went out of control and hit 4 cars. 2 people died, 5 were injured. If I had followed my normal route, I would have been exactly at the accident site. That's when everything I thought about life turned to dust. During the weekend, I analyzed the two events with a designer's mind. Logical, analytical, looking for patterns. The purple butterfly on the day of the tests. The yellow butterflies protecting me from the accident. The mysterious message alerting about the danger. It wasn't coincidence. It was systematic communication. I decided to do a scientific test. Monday morning, before leaving for work, I positioned myself on the apartment balcony and spoke out loud. "Mom, if you're really protecting me, if you can communicate with me through butterflies, send me a clear sign. I need to be sure you're okay, that you're still nearby." I got in the car and left for work. At the first traffic light, a turquoise blue butterfly landed on the windshield. But it didn't land randomly. It landed and began moving on the glass, making specific movements. First, it drew a perfect heart. Then, it flew, forming the letters L and U. Then, another heart. And then, it disappeared. I parked the car immediately and cried for 15 minutes. Love you in butterfly. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. That's how the signs began. Discreet, but too intense to ignore. From that day on, butterflies became part of my daily routine. They didn't appear randomly. They appeared at specific moments, transmitting specific messages, guiding me in important decisions. When I was considering changing jobs to a bigger company, a black butterfly appeared 3 times in a row at the window of the office where I would interview. I researched the company and discovered it had serious financial problems. It went bankrupt 2 months later. When I was unsure whether I should break up with my boyfriend at the time, who had been distant and strange, red butterflies began appearing whenever we were together. 2 weeks later, I discovered he had been cheating on me for months. When I thought about investing all my savings in an investment fund that promised absurd returns, white butterflies appeared flying in an X formation in front of the brokerage. I investigated better. It was a disguised pyramid scheme. In all these moments, the butterflies didn't just appear. They behaved in impossible ways, forming symbols, flying in specific patterns, persisting for abnormally long periods in inappropriate places. They weren't natural phenomena. They were direct messages. I began documenting everything: photographs, videos, detailed notes. In 6 months, I recorded 73 appearances, each one related to crucial moments in my life. But the most impressive event was yet to come. In June of this year, something happened that definitively broke all my materialist convictions. I was going through the most difficult phase since my mother's passing. Deep depression, feeling of existential emptiness, questioning the meaning of everything. Even with the butterflies, even knowing she was nearby, the physical longing was devastating. On a Friday night, I was alone in the apartment, crying on the balcony, when a golden butterfly appeared. It wasn't a common butterfly. It was the size of my palm, with metallic shine on its wings, something that seemed to have come out of a fairy tale. It didn't land on me. It stayed flying in front of me, making movements that clearly indicated, "Follow me." I know it sounds like total madness, but intuition was stronger than reason. I grabbed the car keys and followed the direction it was flying. The butterfly guided me, and I'm not exaggerating, for 15 blocks. It flew a few meters ahead of the car, waited for me to follow, continued flying. Drivers honked, people stared, but I kept following. It led me to Zilker Park, specifically to an area where a rescue animal adoption fair was happening. And that's where my life found new meaning. Among dozens of dogs of all sizes, there was a 3-year-old golden retriever named Charlie. When I approached his cage, he came straight to the bars and put his paw in my hand. Instant, inexplicable connection. The NGO volunteer told me that Charlie had been there for 8 months. Several families were interested in him, but something always happened at the last minute. It was like he was waiting for someone specific. I adopted Charlie that same day, and I discovered something extraordinary. He has a special connection with butterflies that defies any scientific explanation. Whenever a butterfly appears in the apartment or on the street, Charlie stops everything he's doing, sits, stares at the insect, and wags his tail as if he were greeting someone he knows. Once, a purple butterfly landed directly on his nose. He remained motionless for 10 minutes, as if he were receiving a special blessing. When the butterfly flew away, He looked at me with those golden eyes and sighed in that way dogs do when they're in total peace. "You feel her too, don't you, Charlie?" I whispered. He rested his head on my leg and whined softly as if he were confirming. But the most extraordinary event happened 3 weeks after the adoption. Charlie had disappeared from the apartment. I had gone out to buy dog food, came back, and he wasn't anywhere. I searched the entire building, questioned the doorman, neighbors. Nothing. I was desperate, imagining the worst, when a multicolored butterfly with tones of blue, purple, golden, and green that I had never seen in nature appeared on my balcony. It flew to the balcony door, came back to me, flew to the door again, clearly indicating, "Come." I followed. The butterfly down the stairs. It guided me to the ground floor of the building, then to a service area I didn't even know existed. And there was Charlie, trapped in a ventilation grate, scared but unharmed. If it weren't for the butterfly, I would never have found him there. With everything I lived, today I affirm with complete conviction, there are forms of communication between dimensions that our science doesn't yet understand. True love transcends any physical barrier. The following months were of profound transformation in all aspects of my life, not just because of the butterflies, but because of what they represented. The absolute certainty that maternal love is indestructible. The first change was in my professional perspective. That obsession with rapid growth, recognition, making more money, was replaced by searching for purpose and meaning. I began creating advertising campaigns with more human, more spiritual messages. My work gained an emotional depth that impressed clients and colleagues. "Rebecca, your pieces are touching people's hearts in a unique way," commented my creative director. "What personal development course did you take?" I smiled. "Real life course." But it was in my personal life that the most significant changes happened. Charlie wasn't just a pet, he was my spiritual journey companion. Taking care of him taught me about unconditional love, about genuine responsibility, about how to create deep bonds based on trust and affection. And our daily routine became a sequence of small miracles. Every morning, while we had coffee, me with my cup, he with his water bowl, butterflies appeared at the kitchen window. Always different, always at specific moments. If I was worried about some project, a blue butterfly appeared, and I knew everything would work out well. If I was anxious about some decision, yellow butterflies calmed me. If I was intensely missing my mother, purple butterflies appeared like direct hugs from the heart. Charlie reacted to each appearance as if he were seeing someone from the family. He ran to the window, sat at attention, and watched until the butterfly left. Then, he came to me, rested his head on my knee, as if he were transmitting the message he had received. The most impressive sign happened in August. I was considering accepting a job offer in Seattle. Excellent salary, creative director position at a multinational, apartment paid by the company. From a logical standpoint, it was unmissable, but something in my chest said it wasn't the right time. On a Tuesday morning, while I was reading the proposal for the 10th time, trying to decide, something happened that left me speechless. 7 butterflies of different colors entered through the living room window. They organized in a specific formation in the middle of the room and began flying in perfect synchrony, forming symbols in the air. First, they clearly and unequivocally formed the word no. Then, they flew forming a heart. Next, they made a movement that seemed to indicate here, flying in circles over the apartment. Charlie watched everything sitting beside me, completely motionless, as if he were witnessing something sacred. The performance lasted 15 minutes. Then, the 7 butterflies left through the window in a V formation, like military planes. I declined the Seattle proposal the same day. 2 weeks later, I learned that the company was going through a gigantic restructuring. Half the employees would be laid off in 6 months. If I had accepted, I would be unemployed in another state, far from my support network. My mother had protected me once again. But the most precious gift the butterflies brought me was love. In September, on a Saturday afternoon, I was walking Charlie at Zilker Park when a pink butterfly landed on my shoulder and refused to leave. No matter how much I moved, it stayed there, like a living brooch. That's when a man approached, smiling. "Excuse me for bothering, but that butterfly is extraordinary. I've never seen that color in nature." It was David, marine biologist, 31 years old, environmental conservation specialist. He was in the park photographing butterflies for a research project when he noticed the anomaly on my shoulder. We talked for 2 hours. He was fascinated when I told him about my experiences with butterflies, especially because, from a scientific standpoint, many of the behaviors I described were biologically impossible. "Butterflies don't form words in the air," he said, intrigued. "They don't fly in coordinated formations. They don't demonstrate this type of complex social behavior. But do you believe there could be explanations beyond traditional biology?" He thought for a moment. "Science is still discovering things about animal communication, about energy fields, about phenomena we can't measure. I don't rule out anything." We scheduled coffee, then another, and another. David was even more impressed when he began witnessing the appearances personally. In the second week, we were getting to know each other. We were walking on Ladybird Lake when a white butterfly landed on his hand and stayed there for 20 minutes, motionless, as if it were evaluating his intentions. "That's maternal approval," I joked. "I'm being scanned by your mother," he laughed, but with genuine respect. When David asked me to be his girlfriend 2 months later, something magical happened. We were having dinner at a lakeside restaurant when dozens of butterflies of all colors appeared around our table. Other people in the restaurant stopped to observe the inexplicable natural phenomenon. "Your mother is giving official blessing," David whispered, holding my hand. And I knew he was right. David didn't just accept my special connection with butterflies. He studied it, documented it, helped understand patterns I hadn't noticed alone. Together, we created a photography project called Messengers of Love, where we documented butterfly appearances at significant moments of people who had lost loved ones. The project gained national repercussion and became a traveling exhibition. We received hundreds of testimonials. After my grandmother passed, yellow butterflies appear whenever I think of her. My son, who passed at 12, communicates with me through blue butterflies. Butterflies guided me to find a job when I had been unemployed for months. We discovered I'm not an isolated case. Thousands of people around the world report similar experiences, but rarely speak openly for fear of judgment. Our project became a support network for people in grief, a space where they can share their post-life connection experiences without embarrassment. The deepest change happened in my relationship with my dad. He, who had always been skeptical about spiritual matters, now also pays attention to signs. "Becca," he told me on their last wedding anniversary, "your mother was always special. It doesn't surprise me that she found a way to continue taking care of us." That day, an orange butterfly, my mother's favorite color, landed on the grave where she rests and stayed there during our entire visit. My dad cried for the first time since the funeral. Today, 2 years after my mother's passing, I can say I'm a completely transformed person, not just from the suffering of loss, but from the revolutionary discovery that maternal love transcends any physical dimension, that a mother who truly loves finds impossible ways to continue protecting, guiding, caring. I learned that we need to be open to receive the signs, that nature is constantly trying to communicate with us, but our accelerated life, our skeptical mind, our fears prevent us from perceiving. I learned that we don't need to understand everything to accept, that some phenomena are pure mystery, and that's okay. What's important is the result. If it brings protection, guidance, comfort, then it's valid and precious. I learned that death isn't a switch, it's transformation. My mother didn't die. She became a butterfly. She became wind that guides me. She became intuition that protects me. She became this constant and loving presence that accompanies me every day. The butterflies taught me about synchronicities, about how the universe conspires in our favor when we're aligned with love. They taught me about gratitude for small daily miracles. They taught me about the importance of paying attention to life's subtle details. Today, I wake up every day and give thanks, not just for big achievements, but for small, invisible protections. For the traffic light that turned green at the right time. For the person who canceled the meeting that saved me from a disaster. For the butterfly that alerted me to danger I didn't even know existed. My life with David is built on this foundation of gratitude and presence. We've been dating for 1.5 years, and our relationship is constantly blessed by butterfly appearances at important moments. When we argue, a butterfly appears to remind us of the importance of dialogue. When we're happy, they dance around us like celebration. Last month, David proposed to me, and the way it happened was pure magic. We were on a trail in Big Bend National Park, watching the sunset, when hundreds of butterflies of all colors appeared flying in circular formation around us. It was like being inside a living kaleidoscope. David knelt in the middle of that color ballet and said, "Rebecca, your mother is giving the clearest approval possible. Will you marry me?" I laughed and cried at the same time. Of course! The moment I said yes, the butterflies flew, forming a gigantic heart in the sky. Other tourists stopped to photograph the inexplicable natural phenomenon. Our wedding will be in December, on the 2nd anniversary of my mother's passing. It will be a celebration of love that continues, that transforms, that finds creative ways to manifest. Charlie will be my ring bearer. David will be my life companion. And the butterflies will be our special bridesmaids, our constant connection with love that has no end. If this touched you so far, it's because there's a part of you that also believes that true. Love bonds are indestructible, that those who pass physically never really abandon us. Maybe you've also felt the presence of someone dear who made the passage. Maybe you've received signs you preferred to ignore for fear of seeming crazy. Maybe you have experiences with nature that defy logical explanation. If you made it this far, it's because this also touched your heart. And I want to tell you, you're not alone. You never were. Share in the comments a dream, a sign, a butterfly that appeared at the right moment. I'll read each story with care, because I know each experience is unique, but they all have something in common: love that transcends dimensions. Do you believe that those who passed can still protect us? Have you had an experience with butterflies or other elements of nature that seemed like messages? Tell me here below. Let's create a support and hope network for those experiencing these special connections. And remember, sometimes the protection you need so much is closer than you imagine. Maybe in a butterfly that will land on your window tomorrow. Maybe in a sign from nature you'll receive at the exact moment you need it most. Those who passed never really leave us. They just change form. And when love is true, it always finds a way to reach us. Thank you for making it this far. Thank you for listening to this story that transformed my life. And especially, thank you for believing that maternal love is the most powerful force in the universe. A hug full of light and protection. And remember, you're never alone. There's always someone who loves you, taking care of you, even if it's through a small, colorful butterfly. Until our next meeting.